welcome to the Shoreline Show. Today we have a special guest with us here that's going to talk about fitness and mindset and business and all kinds of fun things. And his name is Brandon Stratton.
Yes.
So welcome, Brandon. We're
thank
so
you.
happy
Thank
to
you.
have you here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Brandon is special to me because he's my cousin, and so I'm thankful that he's on here because dude's just grown a lot together. Like we brainstorm ideas, and especially since you've gotten in health and wellness, it's one of those things where I even used to go to some of your training, which is pretty crazy.
That was fun. I got to coach you a little bit.
Yeah,
that was good to beat
He's
up
always
on
been
you.
my little cousin, so it's kind of crazy. And he's actually striving me to be a better person, which is pretty cool and what this show is about. So we want to dig in today a little bit about what's in your head and kind of like what your thought process is in entrepreneurship and health and wellness when it comes to that, because we both know they go together really well, right?
Yep.
If you're not taking care of who you are as a person, you can't externally be great for other people, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, we talk about that all the time. You got to take care of yourself first if you want to take care of the others. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So tell us, I want to start by just getting to know, like, let them know who you are. So kind of take us through your childhood. You have entrepreneur spirit in your blood and who you are. I mean, your family kind of went down that path. So kind of talk about like who you were as a child, how you seen and grew up in that world, what that meant to you, because there was probably some challenges along with that as well. Like, kind of talk about some of that, your childhood.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up locally in the Hudsonville area. My family owned a business ever since I was a kid. Locally as well. So I had the opportunity to, growing up, just seeing the business grow. They had, I think, 3 different locations that they were originally stationed at, and that kind of changed and grew and developed, and I get to see the movement within that, and I had no idea the ins and outs, obviously, as a kid going into it. But I think with that, I think my dad especially, very focused on hardworking, taking care of the things that you put your sweat equity into, and a lot of chores around the house, a lot of outdoor chores. I swear I've probably done 150 yards of wood chips and just living over at that house over the years, and that was always a good experience. But I mean, it's one of those things that today I look back and I appreciate.
Mm-hmm. I think that one of the cool things that stand out about your dad to me is that he didn't come from anything.
Right.
He worked for every single thing he has. He didn't inherit anything. He didn't get anything.
No.
Your dad had to bootstrap every single thing that he had to do.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Lot of hard work. And that's the thing too, like as a kid I didn't get to see, like looking back, I didn't get to see those struggle moments. Mm-hmm. You kind of see as you get later in life, you see kind of the fruits of the labor at the end, mm-hmm. but you don't see the early struggles that go into that. But yeah, absolutely. I would definitely say that. My mom, same way though. She's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Very people focused. Has a heart for everybody. Willing. I can call her up right now. I could ask her for help for anything, and she'd be like, "Yep. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need?"
She's awesome.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I don't know if you know this, but your mom and I graduated from high school together.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. Mm-hmm. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's been great, and then obviously we just welcomed our first kid into the world in December. So she's been an amazing blessing towards that. But
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, going back to I'd say the childhood stuff. It was a lot of work ethic instilled from just seeing my parents work really hard for their mm-hmm. business. It was really awesome to see that. And then of course, going through school and playing a lot of sports, I played predominantly soccer and basketball my whole life. That obviously leads to a lot of other disciplinary things that you have to do just through the sports world in general, when you have great coaches that kind of push you and push your team. So that was always a huge opportunity as well for building character.
Well, we actually have recently had other people on the podcast that seems like a trend with entrepreneurship is that they were athletes. I was not, but I hear that on a lot of them that sports played a big factor of discipline and structure and who they are, and it's interesting to hear that come from you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were some coaches that I think if we were to ask you right now, like, who was your favorite teacher, your favorite coach? Everyone
Right.
has that favorite person that made an impact as a coach or a leader in their life. And I think, there's a few specifics that I have in mind too, but yeah, absolutely. Big changes that helped grow me today.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So, going back to like your childhood, you're, coming from your parents blazing this trail of, I don't think they didn't like know anything about glass, I'm assuming, when they got into that. So that, your dad was in auto body at one point.
Yep,
And then
yep.
like, so there had been like some of that stuff. Did they ever take any of that home with them? And then like, how did you see that from a kid's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I think work does at times find its way back home with you.
Does for me, absolutely.
There's no, I'd love to say there's a way to completely separate things, but there's certain seasons, and even I've learned this even in my last 8 years in the fitness realm, and there's just certain seasons where it is a grind, or it's a time where things aren't going perfectly, and you can't just leave it at your 9 to 5. You have to sometimes, if you want to continue to excel or to even, survive through that season, that you have to brainstorm, bring it home, decompress, like the good, the bad, it does happen at times. So yeah, I think as a kid, seeing those moments, and I heard a lot about you talk about like the business financials, and you talk about how the team's doing, and all these things, and there's some bad things, there's some good things, but that's business, that's life.
One of the cool things I'm hearing though is that a lot of parents and entrepreneurs worry about bringing this stuff home and having their kids see it. But in fact, even though you might even have a little bit of trouble, like fighting, and you're going through some of the stuff when you do get home, it comes off as a positive that they work through that at the end of the day together, right? Like, I'm seeing you as an adult now, and you're looking, from what I'm hearing from you, is you're looking back at this and you're saying to yourself, it's cool that you recognize that was needed, although there were some challenges involved in it, but that was needed within the family to be able to achieve the things that they needed to achieve.
Sure.
So there has to be this decompress and some of these things, which is interesting. That's a good thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think all of us, when we go through, either tough times or try to go through situations like, we'd look back at it and be like, oh, I wish I would have done this differently. But I think all in all, how you look back at circumstances, there's always a positive in every circumstance.
100%.
And I think that's like a huge lesson that is hard, I think, for some people to learn, is that it's just like, there's negative situations in everything if you choose to look at it, and there's positive things in every situation if you choose to look at it. It's just up to you to look through that lens. Sometimes it's easier than other times, but
for sure,
it's your ability to see that lens that's important.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you learn entrepreneurship. When was it for you personally? When was it like that transition where you went from, I'm Brandon as a kid watching all this and my parents, to now I see myself as like an entrepreneur? Like, what was that transition? Like, what was that key factor? Was there a moment in your life where you were like, oh, like this was it, and this is when I realized like I can do anything that I want to do if I put my mind to it, instead of it being my parents are showing and they're guiding me? Was there a moment that this transition to entrepreneurship happened for you?
Yeah, I think, it all kind of like fell into, I guess, one place. I think, so I think a little bit started with me and you. I know when you first got into real estate, and I know we were talking a little bit. I know I always kind of had a drive for, I guess, wanting nicer things. I know it's kind of like a superficial level, but like as a kid, you're just like,
let
I
me
want these
hit
cool.
on that real
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
I actually agree with you, and I think that's the biggest misconception. I don't think wanting nice things is a bad thing at all. I think that is the thing, and especially in the Christian world, where we think, oh, if we want something, we're bad. I don't agree with that. I don't think pastors that have nice things is a bad thing. I've never felt that way at all on any level.
Yeah.
I think that it's the love of it, but I think it actually, a concern for me a little bit is these kids that don't have a drive to want anything, so they don't do anything besides play video games all day long.
That's fair.
So I actually, in the opposite, is I think the want for things is good, the love for them, and like the obsessiveness of it is the bad part. But if you're like, I just want I want whatever I want, that's a good thing. That you use that to harness. Yeah,
and I think our society has always made it seem like, oh, if you want all these bad things, or you want all these things all the time, it makes you like a greedy person. Well,
Right.
that's not what it is at all. Like, we
Yeah.
all have desires,
Oh yeah, of course.
you know, and being a Christian, I believe that God wants to fulfill the desires of our heart. So wanting those things is just a normal thing. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry. I
Yeah,
just
no,
want to
no,
intrigue
no,
on
I-
that. I agree with you.
No,
100%.
I think the initial motive of like when you're like a young kid, you're just like, oh, I just want these, you know, because
Yeah.
I think it was when I saw, you know, with your cousin Timmy, and he's like driving around this Lamborghini. I'm like, I'm gonna get me a Lamborghini one day, and it's like
That's
I'm just gonna
awesome.
work to get that, and it's like this thing that it's like my only purpose in life is to work to obtain this materialistic
Right.
object. Obviously, that's changed
Right.
Having
throughout
a
the years.
kid especially.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You get a rude awakening real fast on what your purpose is. But I think that's kind of how it initially started, was like, okay, I want to obtain these nicer things. And I think as you start to peel away the layers of like, okay, how do I get there? Who do I need to ask questions to? And I know I was asking a lot of questions to you. I know we spent some time with your cousin Timmy and learning from him. That was a good experience. And then I remember this one time at church, because I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? I'm like, I think it was around like 16 years old, trying to figure out what path I want to take. I knew it was somewhere, you know, initially when I graduated and like everyone asked you at the open house, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? It was like, oh, I'm going for my MBA. And I'm like, I don't know.
Whatever you can throw out.
What is that?
Just
I'm just going
Whatever
for it.
makes you feel good. I'll tell you.
What do you want me to do?
Like, yeah, my MBA, that sounds fancy. Like, sure, I'm definitely going to do that. But no, that time at church, we got there, everyone had an envelope, and in the envelope was a $1 bill, and the whole series was on finances, but it was like, what's the purpose behind why you make money? And I think like money is just an exchange for just goods and services, for things that you provide that you otherwise couldn't receive by doing yourself. And it was one of those things like, what can, and we all had a Sharpie, and it's like, you had to write on this dollar bill, and it was, what's gonna be the thing in your life that's gonna help you obtain these services. And I don't know what it was. I think it was just something called me that I wrote down that God wants to change my life by changing others. And then that stuck with me.
That's pretty cool.
Until today.
That is cool.
And it's crazy how like that happened when I was around like 16. I wrote that down, say I'm going to my MBA. I had a little bit of a sports injury that led me into some physical therapy. I thought I was getting into physical therapy, and initially when I went to college at Grand Valley, that's initially what my undergrad was for, was for physical therapy, and that pivoted a little bit up into the point where you know, I ended up getting an internship at Fit Body, which led me to where I kind of am today. So yeah, that's kind of one of the big turning points right there that I think led towards, okay, this is my trajectory that I felt like God was calling me to at that time.
So you got into Fit Body. The crazy part of it is you had a mindset, even going into Fit Body, that you weren't looking just to be just like a complacent, I'm just going to go there and train. Because a lot of people go in and say, hey, I just want to be a trainer. That's all I'm going to do, and I'm just going to do bare minimum. You always... I can remember since you were young, from being involved in everything you have, that you've had this, I'm going to take everything to the fullest capabilities. And explain here kind of how you excelled in Fit Body and how that ended up going, and like the mindset behind that.
Yeah. Well, I think rewinding back a second to the, you know, how it led to that too, I think, I remember in the room, actually, I think directly above where we're sitting right now, we had that it was like a men's meeting conference.
You remember that?
Yeah. And
okay.
I think we ended up, the book that, I don't know who brought it up, because I know we were still talking like, oh, like, you know, what are you reading? Everyone's like, as someone who's 16, I was playing a lot of video games, a lot of sports. I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'll read something. And it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And I remember reading that like straight through that night, and I was like hooked. And then I know we got into a lot of different other conversations, but I think that's kind of where the initial draw to, you know, self-development books and leadership books and growth started, was, you know, at a pretty young age. And it's not like I pursued it like consistently all the time. I mean, you're still a kid doing dumb things at the time. And But yeah, no, fast
That's what
forward.
kids do.
Yeah, it's, got to grow somehow.
Yeah.
But no, fast forward into college, still was pursuing physical therapy, and I did a lot of shadowing. There's a lot of different routes you can take for physical therapy. But for me, there was a lot about it that I love, but there was just this thing that just wasn't clicking for me. Like just every time I went to shadow, and we met some amazing people, amazing physical therapists. And it was like, this is great, but this is not, I just felt like there might be a little bit of a cap. This isn't like where I wanted to be. And it was my last class before I graduated. And this guy came in, Matt Wilbur, and he's the one that inevitably opened up the first kind of Fit Body in the West Michigan area in 2013. They were looking for interns. And the dude was on fire, passionate, talking about leadership and growth and making an impact in the community.
Wow.
And it was like, when you're around somebody, and I'm sure, we've all met somebody that's like, they just draw you in.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I need to just be around this person more.
I need to be by them all the time.
Yeah.
You do whatever you can to be around them more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I need to learn a little bit more, and I'm like, let's hear more about this. And I remember when the class ended, everyone just left, and I was like the only person that walked up to talk to him. I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in learning more about this. So I ended up, me and another girl, we ended up being the first interns for Fit Body Bootcamp in this area. And at the time, there was only one location in Grand Haven that started, and then the second location, kind of as I was coming on as an intern, that opened up as well. So there was two at the time. So I was the first intern. I think to date we've had over 100 interns go through our internship program.
That's amazing.
And when I first started the internship program, it was like, hey, sit on this.
You were the first one.
Yeah, I was the first one. They're like, sit on this bench. Here's a pad of paper. Take notes. Like,
Take
cool.
notes.
Thanks. Yeah. And now today we have a full put together binder curriculum. Like
That's awesome.
It's grown quite substantially. But yeah, so that was kind of how I got into the realm of things. And then really what that first 2-3 years taught me more than I ever could have gained in college.
Absolutely.
And it was just absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. So I think I guess for anyone for listening to this that is, younger still going into it, I think finding a quality, if you're in college, finding a quality internship, even if you're not in college, like get yourself into, we've had people that didn't go to college and they still would try to apply for an internship with us. Yeah. Just for, just to learn, just to take it in. I think it's super
once you
important.
I really think that that's the way it should start to go. Like, just skip college and go right into that.
Yeah.
Find what you love, what you're passionate about, and just do that. Don't waste all the money.
I would agree.
I will plug college a little bit here. I think
there's certain aspects,
absolutely.
Yeah, certain things.
I had I think it was like my brother that I was talking to once, and he was saying, what was it? I think it was like Greek mythology or something along those lines. I was like, who cares about that? I said to him. He goes, well, here's the deal. He's like, if there's only a small portion of people that care about it, but if nobody learns about it, he goes, then you lose the history and you lose the education behind it. And I was like, I never thought about that. And I don't know if you guys know this, but did you know the innovation and the idea behind concrete was lost for, I think it was like 100, if not thousands of years. Like, we had it. So imagine seeing concrete. Yeah. And then we don't have it, and we don't even know how to make it for...
Because it just wasn't being passed on.
The education, because it was actually hard. So we actually had concrete, lost it for years. I don't remember if it's hundreds or thousands of years. Yeah. And then it comes back around because we figured out it again. So I think that's the idea. I think where college plays its role is passing on some knowledge of things that we might not care about, but some individual might.
Yeah.
All serves a purpose one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess.
No, but I do think entrepreneurship and where the world has came today, a lot of it when it comes to business and innovation has came directly from internships and like learning from things. And I mean, the fact is a lot of like I think about like businesses like Fit Body, right? And you guys started there, but now you guys have a new company. Yeah. And it started from learning and interning with originally from a company that had some software or some development in what they did, right? So we're all a product of what we've gone through and people that we've had in our lives, and which is cool to hear. And so I think that's what you're saying.
The flip side of that, and talking about losing stuff. So over the past 50 years, let's say, there's been a really strong push towards formal education. Everybody's got to go to college. If you don't go to college, you're not going to be able to make money. And what we've lost over that time is people getting into trades or craftsmanship.
Right.
Like, you think about the grandmaster craftsmen that do amazing, beautiful architectural things. Who does that now? Like, who does those things?
One of the most inspiring things I ever...
So we're in danger of losing some of that stuff because everybody was pushed one way. So
one of the arguments that Aaron and I make is, like, if you look at like TV shows these days, and you look at like so there's a place in Fort Myers, the Edison Ford Museum, it's their compound. It's probably one of the most inspiring places, to be honestly inspiring, I've ever been. It's the craziest thing. You go in Edison's barn, and they have all, like, where him and Ford were working on these projects and all these crazy things. And then also going back to TV shows, it's like a sense of adventure these days, and like critical thinking about, like, okay, maybe this. And I think we are losing that a little bit. And I think the education system, I think this is where it kills that.
Yes.
I think there's goodness to it, but I think it kills the creativity and maybe science, or maybe these things don't quite make sense, but we're going to try to figure it out by... I think Edison was, you look at him, he was a scientist, right? But he, at the same time, he didn't know what he was doing. The idea behind science is trying something and ruling it out. Yeah, curiosity. And I think we have to go back to that a little bit. If I was to ask you two, like, how many people do you know that are in a garage or back barn that has created something or figured something out?
I know a lot of people like that.
Really? See, I know nobody.
I know a few.
Like, tell me what they have created. I don't know. I like the realness. I don't know anybody that is like, I tried in what invention. The only invention I know somebody that created was somebody that created flare hair. The visor cap they were cutting carpet out and they put carpet in it. It has that hair on the top. And that's the only thing that I've known that somebody's invented. But other than that, I don't know anybody.
Did I ever tell you the story about the time I invented something when I was young, and my mom got a call from somebody, and I was like so nervous about it that, like, they're like, oh yeah, we'll process this through, but we need like $5,000. And she's like, do you know anything about this? Like, oh no, I have no idea. And I was like, so this was like back in, I think in like middle school, we were talking about like the basic concept of like levers, and this was like winter time, and I was like, oh, it's like a cool invention to make. And they ended up selling them at Target. And I'm wondering if it's still these people today, but basically, like the levers with like the snowball scoopers at the end.
Yeah.
Like, I typed that into this thing, and these people call, and they're like, yeah, we love this idea. We want to patent it. We want to push it through. It's like $5,000. And I told my mom, like, I have no idea what these people are talking about. It wasn't me.
You were
afraid. I was afraid because I was like, you're a kid and you just don't want to like be in trouble with stuff like that. But yeah, anyways, funny story that I just thought about. But yeah.
That's actually a pretty cool story to see that your thought process and where you're at today, that thought process has gotten you where you're going today, right? Yeah. Like I see something, but I can see where I can make changes to it. And innovation, right?
Yeah.
So
cool. So what experiences have led you to be like a leader today? What would you say, like those major pivotal experiences where you're like, okay, and maybe it was challenges, like you're like, okay, I seen this and I had to pivot over to this point. And
yep.
Yeah, you following me?
Yeah. No, I think I can give my largest leadership, entrepreneurship growth to how I grew through Fit Body Bootcamp. Obviously, being surrounded around Matt initially and his growth and hunger. I mean, we were able, as a team at the time, taking 2 locations, and then leading up till COVID, we had 10 locations. So it really blew up, and that took a huge team effort. It took a huge leadership effort from Matt and the rest of the leadership staff. I think initially I learned a lot from some of the more senior coaches, more focused, I guess, on how the overall side of things would work with how the overall side of things would work with just, coaching in general. But I think a lot of that kind of changed with time, with different conferences we did. We've been to the Entre Leadership Summit twice, which is awesome, which is led by Dave Ramsey. We got to learn from some of the, like Craig Rochelle, George W. Bush was there, Peyton Mann, like all
That's
these
insane.
really cool people that you're just sitting there and just watching on stage. And then, we've had the privilege of doing a conference with John Gordon, which I'm sure you've read.
Oh, yeah.
John,
Energy
like the
Bus.
Energy Bus.
Love
So
John
we went
Gordon.
to Chicago as a team, I think back in like 2017 or 18, and we got to sit down and like just had like in a room like this with like, there was 35, 40 of us at the time from our team, and we had the opportunity to learn firsthand from him,
huge.
and that was amazing. Some of the biggest titans in the fitness industry we've met multiple times. So Todd Durkin, he's out of San Diego, California. So we had an opportunity. It was really cool. We've flown him out a few times, and you want to get a guy in a room that will just fire you up. I don't care what industry you're in. You could put him in front of you, and he would just fire you up. That's his type of personality. But I think the coolest leadership experience we had is we went to Coronado Island, which is where the Navy SEALs get trained.
Oh, that'd be
beautiful there.
awesome.
Yeah, so we
I
did
know
a
you
work.
went there.
Yeah, so
That's
we did a
pretty awesome.
workout on Coronado Island. Like
So
right
Like
when
Navy
the,
SEAls there?
no,
Oh,
they weren't.
that'd be
All the big
awesome.
battleships were there, and that was
That's
really
pretty
cool
cool.
to see. Or
Yeah.
not battleships, but the aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
And we got to do a workout right on the beach where the Navy SEALs would do their thing. But I think the
Nice.
coolest thing about that is when you're surrounded by leaders in front of you. It's not about just like the workout side of things, the fitness side of things. It's the mental prep that he gave us going into it. But at the end, when we went through a hard workout, and he sat us there as like the sunrise was coming up, and he literally walked us through like this, almost like this mental recharge, like being able to gather your breath and feel where your body's at, and as the sunrise is coming up, feeling the sun on your face, and just knowing mentally, having that clarity of like putting yourself further into the day, not only for yourself but for others. And it's like when you sit in front of these leaders like this, it's like it inspires you to want to be a better leader yourself.
Absolutely.
And just be a better person. So I think that's that. Going back to, I think, the original question, I think a lot of it was from the growth of being surrounded by so many, not all awesome teammates with like-mindedness coworkers, but having the opportunity and the blessing to be in front of so many amazing leaders throughout the year has just been like, incredible. Like
It
incredible.
sounds like it stems from a leader that understood, Matt, that
Yep.
understood that it's worth investing and spending money.
Oh yeah.
And because that's not cheap.
No.
Let's be
Sure
honest.
isn't.
Like
No.
he's trying to start a thing back here. Like, okay, my goal is to get people to come, and he could have spent that in marketing dollars.
Sure.
Here, just saying, I'm going to try to get more people to come to our training.
Yeah.
Instead, he said, I see a value buying plane tickets, buying trips, getting you guys onto this island, I see value in investing in my people first.
Yep.
So they understand, and and then he all of a sudden breeded all these leaders to be these most amazing leaders in the around.
Yeah.
Like I see some of some of the people that he's produced out, but he chose because he's seen something in it, investing everything into him,
Yep.
which is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And I see you doing that to the leaders, like coming in, even when I came to when you guys were gutting that Granville, and just seeing how you invest in some of your people is just crazy. Even some of your customers, they came in and in just investing in them and how much they care about you shows that you don't get that just by being a nice person.
No.
You get that by investing in them, which is cool.
Yeah, it's leaders investing in leaders. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's really how it all comes down to it. I mean, we try to empower our leaders. We have, monthly leadership trainings. We have our basic L10 meetings every single week that we try to pour into the leaders and get people up to speed. But then once a month, we still try to dedicate time just to growing our leadership team, which is super important. But yeah, that's really kind of where I think things had so much momentum as we grew, not only as a company, but in our community. Because at the time, and I mean, it still is under the Tranzform brand now, but our pillars were results, relationships, and community. So not only was it important for us to develop in our leaders and to like, we would make sure that, hey, we're picking a book once, every month that we're reading or every other month that we're reading, but it was important that we did a lot of stuff to build our team, I guess, camaraderie through a lot of community-based things. So Matt as well, he created a nonprofit called The Big Give. So The Big Give is all for West Michigan kids. And basically I remember when we first started, we ended up raising, this was like the second year Fit Body was a thing. We would obviously, pool all our clients together and we'd get a little bit of money. And I think it was like $5,500 is what we raised. And I remember we go shopping with the team really early. We went to Old Navy and Toys R Us at the time, RIP. Yeah,
exactly.
So we did that, and it was fun because it's like, okay, we're a gym, like that's awesome. We provide results, we provide nutrition, but at the time too, it's like we got not only our team involved, but we got our members involved on like let's give back to these West Michigan kids, and we've been doing that every year since. And even up to the height of COVID, we were still able to raise, I think our highest amount to date was like, for a 1 year raise was like $275,000 1 year alone, which was awesome. So, I mean, it's been well over,
That's insane.
millions of dollars that we've given, and it goes directly to these kids,
Nice.
which is awesome. So, this year it's going to be, I wouldn't say a little bit more of a challenge, because as you're trying to literally flip a business, it kind of changes the focus and the priorities. And we're still trying to, put energy into the Big Give, because it is still super important. But I think on top of the leadership side of things, I think that is another form of leadership, right? Like if you're like being in a business, being a leader in the community is helping your communities grow.
Yeah.
And it was cool because it's not only you're getting the business involved, you're getting the team involved, and you're also getting other members an opportunity to like go shopping with us,
Absolutely.
and get
That's
back
cool.
too, which is really cool.
That
So,
would have been fun just to be there.
hey, you can
To
come.
be honest with you,
You can come this year. We
I
need new
would.
shoppers.
I
It takes a
love
long. It takes a long time, and shout out to Meyer too, because they ended up providing us. So I think we spend like $200,000 with them there, and they end up giving us like another like $20,000 on top of that to spend, which is huge. And they give
Nice.
us extra staff, they give us extra time, they close down wings of the store. I mean, it takes a long time. To spend
$200,000 in one shot.
Yeah. So it's pretty
At
incredible.
Myers.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do
Yeah.
that by one item, but if you're buying
see maybe
small
at
items,
Amazon.
that takes a lot.
Yeah, it's $250 per kid. It's half and half. Half goes to like things that they want,
Yeah.
and half of it's like clothes, jackets,
great.
boots, which is great. So, so Big Give time's coming up, which is great.
That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
That's fun.
So going back to the transition and how you guys did. So you guys, obviously you guys were with one, and then you switched over to your new style. You're always going to get haters
Sure.
within that because you're doing something different.
Yeah.
How did you mentally cope with that? Like what was your attitude? Because you take it sounds like you sacrificed during times like you had COVID hit in the gym industry, probably one of the hardest hit industries during
It was
COVID.
awful.
Huge.
Yeah.
Like, how did you guys react to that? Like, what did that look like? What was your mindset in that? Because at that time, you had to have been getting beat up.
Oh yeah. I mean, going back to COVID, I don't know the exact statistic for like the Fit Body Bootcamp franchises, but I want to say it was around like a third of them kind of disappeared after that time. And even locally, like we knew a lot of some of the smaller gym owners, and they didn't make it through.
Yeah.
We ended up purchasing 2 Fit Body Bootcamps, I think 2 months before COVID. So that wasn't the best.
That's not the best time.
Best timing. But, the thing that I think is important as entrepreneur, as a business owner, is that you need to pivot, and you need to pivot fast. So for us to survive, what we focused on is like, okay, we can't stop investing. Like, this is the most critical time to invest in people's health, and especially mental well-being.
Absolutely.
Like so that, like, to us, like, that was like our basic goal was like, okay, we need to make sure that, because you know how it goes, you work out and you're consistent, and you go on vacation for a week and a half, and you don't work out at all, you come back and I don't care how fit you are, it feels like you got your butt kicked. So
Right.
imagine taking all of COVID off.
Right.
Some people unfortunately did, and they came back later on, and it's still been a climb to get back to where they wanted to be. But yeah, it was, so we focused a lot on that so that way we could continue to provide, you know, not have to let any of our team go, which, you know, was a sacrifice. That alone was just trying to be able to do whatever we can to keep our team employed, keep the benefits for them, and keep moving along. But I mean, it was doing Zoom workouts. It was being able to figure out the technology side of things to still create the experience. And and it was a crazy time. I mean, we were having to work out in parking lot.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that, like driving by the gyms and
like
seeing people working out.
But at that point, everyone's like, I need to do anything at this point to make it happen. So that's kind of the pivot that we made initially. But I think that's what built a lot of our resiliency to where this transition is happening now. And there's nothing wrong with Fit Body Bootcamp. Fit Body Bootcamp is really what made us who we are today. And there's a lot of things that we've done in West Michigan that have helped Fit Body Bootcamp be who they are today.
Absolutely.
Which has been awesome to say, just as our West Michigan community team, past and present team members, have really created and paved the way for a lot of gym owners throughout the entire United States. Like, we used to host masterminds for all of the Fit Bodies. Like, people would come from all over the country to come to our gyms and learn from us, which was like it was a huge leadership opportunity right there.
Absolutely.
Which was cool. But
learn from training. Learn from teaching.
Learn
right?
from teaching.
That's a huge
learn
Right.
from teaching, which was a few nervous moments doing that.
I love it.
But yeah, no. So Fit Body Bootcamp as a whole, and there's a lot of other gyms that you go in, you've got your trainers. The trainers, some of them, like, I mean, our coaches, at a minimum, we try to hire everyone with a minimum of a bachelor's degree in like exercise science. They at a minimum need to have a certification in one of the bigger, personal training certificates. And if you get a few little extra things here and there, that's a plus. But some of the other, local gyms, that's not always the case. And I think the thing with Fit Body Bootcamp and what we were doing is that you would come in and we would, as being, expert coaches, we would still try to tailor the workouts to make sure that we're keeping you safe. But at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a one size fits all program. And as the years went on, we had members that were with us for 1 year, 2 year, at our oldest location, like 7 years with us. You get to this kind of, I don't know, you get kind of stuck.
Like a plateau.
Yeah, you kind of plateau, and nutrition's obviously the biggest thing at the end of the day. Like, that's a whole another different topic that we can take today. But the main pivot that we realized, what we realized is that we need to slow things down. We need to take each individual person and spend more time with them, whether it's individually or at least small groups. So one coach to 4 people. You'd have longer, 1v1 meetings. What are you trying to achieve? Like, what is your biggest hiccup? What makes it hard for you to get over that hump? Is it getting up early in the morning? Is it your nutrition? Is it just general accountability? But I'd say the biggest thing when it comes to it is how we put everyone through what's called a functional movement assessment. It's called FMS. And because really, if we took everyone in this room right now and I put you through an FMS, I'm going to find something with everyone. Like, for me, it's my right shoulder. Like, my mobility is not all there.
Right.
And to say that you take a room, like at the time when we were doing like pre-COVID at our Byron Center location, we'd have 4 coaches to 90 people in the room.
So you can't assess every person to know what
we knew our
needs
people, but
you didn't know for sure.
Yeah. Until you break that down, it's like, okay, I'm having this person do a push-up, and it's like, yes, I'm getting you stronger by doing it as safe as possible, but by doing something as quote-unquote safe as possible over and over and over and over again, like, I don't know if I'm progressing them or I'm damaging them.
Right.
And until you actually slow down, you take the time to focus individually on each person and to put them through a movement screen and to retest and improve, that person is going to plateau, or they're going to get injured and they're going to go backwards.
Right.
So we felt as being like the fitness, the fitness leaders, and being the what we would like to be, termed as like the gold standard of fitness, is that we need to take the knowledge that we have, and if we're kind of like, by continuing to do what Fit Body Bootcamp was, we're not doing truly the service that every person deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Doing
why
a
we made,
disservice to
right,
people. Yeah.
right. So that's why we made the pivot, and that's hard for people. You know, when you change a business that people would get up every single day at 5 a.m. and they'd show up to this routine, and you flip it on its face.
Yeah.
Not completely, like there's still bits and pieces, and the team's still there, but it does change a little bit. Change is hard for people. Like, it's
Big
hard.
time.
So
I'm sure you had some people that weren't too happy about that.
No, it was definitely mixed emotions.
That happens with every business, right?
You're right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and it's still currently hard. Like we just opened on this yesterday. We opened up our 4th location that we renovated and flipped, and then we've got one more to go. So we went from 10 businesses down to 5. So that's been a huge adaptation as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just very unique. Like, going through change is hard.
So Brandon, like, with the experience that you've had in the past with the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, tell me how you overcame and made that a positive experience for yourself. So you had COVID. You went through COVID.
Yeah. So I would say COVID was obviously the biggest thing for everybody. Like, COVID was a huge hit for the gym industry. It was a big hit for everybody. I think for us as a business, it was how quickly can we pivot? How can we make a positive change? How do we not only as a company survive this and continue to pay each and every one of our employees through it, but how do we, at what was, looking back, like the most important time for not only physical health, but for the mental health of people during that time. So for us, we made a lot of changes as far as how we delivered our services, the accountability. My phone has so many clients' names because we were just texting people for accountability. We had technology stuff where we had like our Zoom workouts connected to a mic, and we did outdoor workouts. So we did our best to still provide a really high value service when a lot of people were just like, they had to close their doors. They didn't, either they didn't think to make that change, or they just didn't do it altogether. So that was really hard. It's hard on the team, but I think it was, one of our core values is whatever it takes. So it was a whatever it takes mindset. Like, we're gonna make it through this, and we're going to figure out whatever pivot or solution that we need to do. And as we know, through COVID, like every single week there was like a new rule or new this, new that. So we did our best to kind of navigate through that time. And we were one of the lucky gyms. I mean, we had 10 gyms that made it through at that time. So that was really kind of navigating through the change that was a little bit tough for us, but I think it helped us be resilient, especially in the change that we're making now, going from one business to the next.
So you build calluses, right? Like, you dealt that through COVID, and now you're doing it now, and you start to build this where change is fine to you, and you start to learn and develop that skill of embracing change and working through that process, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, change is inevitable. It just depends on your mindset around it too. Like, it's still hard. Like, change is always hard. It's never an easy thing for people, I think. But like you said, you grow calluses around it to where you either compare it to a previous scenario, or that like you've been through something tough before, that you're gonna get through it again.
Absolutely.
Might be a little bit different, have new routes and challenges itself, but
I think what's nice is, I think you look at big business, it's a lot harder for them to pivot than these small companies.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful part about entrepreneurship is anybody can start anything. Anybody that's watching this, you can start something up, and the advantage that you have over a big business, and as you get bigger, it's much harder to pivot than some of these smaller businesses. I think like a big ship, if they got a quick turn, something's in their way, that's not as easy as in a smaller little speedboat they can whip around. And I think that is the goal, and every business is trying to become a big business. So I'm not hating on big business by any means. I'm just saying there's opportunity out there for everybody in the new and in the future, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it'll always change. And that, even you look at like stock markets, these big mega companies that are huge that you heard of in the 70s, 80s, like Xerox. Nobody really talks about Xerox Corporation.
Right.
They were huge in the 70s and 80s. And now what we got, like got Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, like some of these big FANG stocks, these huge mega corporations. But even them, they're struggling, pivoting.
Yep.
So who's the next people that are going to come up
behind them.
and that's the beautiful part about it in today's world is you can pivot and change.
Hey, when you hear something, let me know. I'm willing to.
Honestly, I'm a stock
I would have known
nerd.
about the Apple or the Google. Like,
I'm a stock nerd. There is a new one coming. Who is it? That's a fact.
Yeah.
There is going to be
always,
new.
yep.
And the question is, who is it? And right now we are staging these down times. You're seeing these, and I have some of my own thoughts on that.
Yeah.
But that's the beautiful part about going back to is you guys were able to, because you guys were at the size where you can pivot. But could you imagine having 300 or 400 stores and doing
oh
what
yeah,
you're doing?
and the amount of employees and people you have to lead and guide. I mean, we had 40 to 50 something employees. I mean, that's still tough to
that's hard
communicate
enough.
and deal with, and because like every single person on your team handles change a little bit differently. Like we focus on like the DISC assessment through John Maxwell, and like I'm a CD. Some people are individual I's or S's, and like that, those all have their own different meanings and obviously a different topic in general. But like some people, when change happens, it's like they freak out and like you can't get the best out of people sometimes, even though like you're trying to like navigate them through that stuff. So yeah, I mean. Yeah, we were able to make it through, and I think that the current stage that we're in, making the pivot, it's hard because, you lose people that you care about as far as clients' standpoint because for what we're changing into, it's one of those things where we're making a pivot for the better. It changes the business model, it changes the business pricing structure. At the end of the day, we're trying to do what we know is best to serve people to ultimately get them from point A to point B, and it just looks different and it's hard.
Explain what that pivot is that you're making right now, because you were Fit Body Bootcamp and it was more of a large group of people working. And so your pivot is to what? What are you?
So as Fit Body Bootcamp, you're coaching anywhere from at 2 coaches to 4 coaches on the floor. There can be sessions that have 10 people, and at our biggest location at the time, like we had sessions up to 80 to 90 people. Right. So we do our best to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe, that our programming is done in such a way that it fits everybody. We can tailor it to take it up a notch for you, to take it down a notch, depending on where you're at. But obviously when you're doing that at scale, each and every single person is going to have some type of different limitation until you actually test that and take them through a functional movement screen and actually know where they're standing. It's really hard to progress people in the way they need to progress, or to keep people truly safe, even though you're doing everything as effectively as possible in that time to keep them safe for the long run. So the change to Transform is one of those things where we're able to take our groups and bring them a little bit smaller. We're able to spend more time on doing a functional movement screens to be able to make sure that, if I'm having a conversation with you, I want to know, like, what's your schedule look like? What's your nutrition schedule look like? What are your biggest hurdles, hiccups that you're going to hit? And then from there, like, being able to break down a system that's going to work for you. We're going to go through the functional movement screen. We're going to test you. We're going to make sure that we're actually taking you on a plan that is customized for you. So that's kind of the real big change that we're doing with that. But that in itself has its own processes and things that you need to make pivots to. That it's just hard for the team dynamic. It's hard for the existing client dynamic. But it's going well. But it's not perfect. But we're making improvements each and every day.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's one of those things where, there has to be a lot of unknown there for you too.
Oh yeah.
Because you're trying something new that you guys haven't done.
Yeah.
And now you're like, okay, we're gonna do this new thing. We know we were successful at the old thing.
Sure. Yep.
And how are people gonna embrace that?
Yeah. Well, so rewinding back, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but we had Transform since like 2015, but on a really small scale. It was like a business within the business. Like, it existed, but it didn't like get the full energy and attention, where now it's like, this is the main ship. This is everything we're focusing on. versus, so we saw the glimpses of success. We saw the growth pattern and the desire to be a part of it.
Okay.
Because we did see that, okay, we had people in the Fit Body Bootcamp realm that were like, okay, this isn't working for you anymore. Let's shift you into Transform. And then as we saw the value in that grow over the years, we're just going to make a full pivot to this, because this is true training. This is true training, true results.
And everything. In life, not just in nutrition, everything.
Yeah, the whole mindset side of things, the accountability. I mean, accountability is the biggest thing, absolutely, and then nutrition. So, yeah, that's kind of I
think what you started to realize is there's a specific person that you're looking for that says, I'm willing to pay more to double down on myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm willing to go all in. I can invest in this, I can invest in that, but I'm going to invest in myself, because if I'm the best person in running, let's use me for an example, is if I come and I champion myself, and I say I'm going to double down on my fitness, my mindset, my food, I'm going to bring it harder to the table when it comes to even this podcast, right? Or it could be even into what I do, into real estate. I'm going to be a champion in everything I do. And that's the type of person you're looking at and say, I believe in myself and I'm willing to double down on it.
Yeah, when you're firing on all cylinders, things are going great, you're feeling great. It's momentum, right? And that's, I think momentum is one of the most underestimated things in any business, or like, even if you need to, okay, so let's say you work out, you're the type of person that you work out 5 days a week. Even if you can do 2, like that's still something that's going to help you get a little bit better. Maybe you can't do all of your meal prep or eat 100% right. Well, you can still make little choices as you're going out to dinner or out to this and that are still going to help you have momentum. It's like when people just like hit the brakes 100%. Yeah. That it's so hard to restart at times. It really is. And like we've seen it happen so many times. We have people that are like, I'm gonna stop right now because during the summer we're just so busy. And then they come back and it's like,
and it's hard to get
it's so hard. It takes them almost the entire year to get back to where they were. Like it's 9 months of progress lost that you're not going to regain, in such a short amount of time. Like it's
I honestly, I think a lot of that too is I think there's natural addictions to things. Like I think about it, and it when you're saying it, what comes to my mind is like me. I'll be really strict on what I'm eating. Yeah, I'll do great, and I'll be like, I'm gonna have a cheat day. Yeah. Right, and I know at your program you're okay with cheat days.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, what I find for myself is if I do have those, sugar, and I don't know what it is, but it's extremely addicting. Even if you don't want to, that next day you'll be craving this stuff so much. But if I'm strict and I stay on it, I'm usually typically better off.
Yeah, you got to know yourself. Every person. I mean, I've probably coached one-on-one over like 1,000 people through like what we termed our challenges at the time. We're doing a new one through Tranzform here pretty soon, which is awesome. But it's so unique because every single person, like what helps them stay on track. Every person's different. Like every scenario is different. Every household's different. Every dynamic is uniquely different. So but it's cool because you learn. What's so cool from a coaching perspective is that sometimes I learn things from what's working well in someone else's house that I can then tell another person over here.
Right.
Like this person's doing this, and like I'm not even providing you the advice. I've learned it from someone else that made a change, and then I'm just So that's kind of the cool aspect of that.
Yeah.
So when you transfer from Fit Body to Transform.
Yep.
Anytime there's change, there's backlash from people.
Sure.
Did you experience anything from the community? Because you guys poured into the community, you built relationships, but still, even although you put all your energy into that, you probably had some backlash, I would assume.
Yeah. I mean, change is hard for everybody, no matter how you look at it. Change through any scenario, there's pros and cons to it. You're leaving something behind. And I think for people that were doing we've had locations that have been open for 8 years, and then all of a sudden, you got someone who's that routine into this. We've gone through coaches, like we've gone through different coaches throughout the year, and it's hard when you lose a coach. But like the overall experience of what we brought to the table, that is changing for some people. Like
Right.
it's not just walking into a new building. I mean, there's going to be certain dynamics to it that just are something different than what you've done for the last 8 years for some people in this case. And some people, like, they understood, they took it well. Some people felt like we were just driving a dagger into their back, and it's like, that's not the case. Like, we're, as much as we try to explain, like, we're doing this because we, as the fitness professionals, and trying to set the standard of, like, truly what it takes to take the human body and just the mental state from point A to point B. This is good, but this is great.
Yeah.
And we want to take, like, we can't just sit here knowing we have something better and we're not going to go after it.
Right.
So, I mean, it stinks because you're never going to make everyone happy.
Right.
And you never want to burn bridges with people in your community, because, like, really, that's really what we stand for more than anything else, is just
Right.
having a huge community presence. But yeah, so it's hard, but I think, you kind of got to brush those few situations off your shoulder, and you move forward and you keep focusing on the mission ahead. And I think going back to what we were talking about earlier with shaking the tree, that, it's going to bear more and more fruit as we go.
Yeah, kind of hit on the shaking the tree effect. I don't know if they've missed that, but one of the things that I've always kind of said with people is, like, I always picture like a tree with, like, leaves, right? And then you will reinforce that tree. So that's what you did with your Fit Body, and you keep reinforcing. You have it, and let's say you have 100 leaves, and you shake that tree, and once that tree, you're gonna have some leaves fall off because you make changes. It could be something you chose to shake by climbing it, or it could be a win or something like that.
Right.
But some of these leaves, but then you reinforce it, and we see it with some politicians. We see it with even some famous people. I believe the best thing they can do sometimes is shake the tree, because what happens is they'll purposely do this. They'll reinforce, but you got a bunch of fake people in your life. But if I say something and I shake the tree, now some of those leaves go scurrying.
Yeah.
Now the people that are standing there still
Are with
are my people. They're with me, right? And I see that with politicians. They're getting really good at rinse, wash, and repeat this tree thing. So now it's like, okay, now I had 100 leaves, and I got down to 75. But now I reinforce those 75, and now I get to 200. I shake the tree again. Now I'm 150. And you keep and the people that stick with you are going to be your people that believe in what you're doing and the mission of what your core values and what you're trying to do. They believe in that, and they're going to be your biggest supporters in what you do.
Yeah, it's like you're reinforcing the roots of that tree.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where a lot of people are realizing, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
for sure. So going back to the whole, like, you're going over to Transform. What do you see the future? Like, where do you see the future of Transform? Where's the future of where Brandon wants to be? Because I know you're kind of, you have your hands into multiple things like most entrepreneurs.
Sure.
Kind of talk about what the future for you looks like.
Yeah, so right now we just opened this Monday, so yesterday we opened up our fourth location into the Tranzform model, so that was exciting. It takes us about a good month to flip them, but we started the initial flipping progress, the announcement, January, February-ish was our first one. So this year our biggest goal as Tranzform is just getting all of our companies or all of our locations flipped over into the Tranzform model.
Right.
So we've got one more to go. That should probably be done and ended in mid-August. Obviously, once you first do the flip, there's always, at every location, there's going to be the initial growing pains, the changeover switches that take place. So the first whole year is just getting everyone on board. We've got all the processes dialed in. We're feeling good about what we're doing. I'd say we're 90% there with just about everything. Obviously, transfer to a new CRM in the mix of it all as well, and it's like, holy cow. So
this last one should be really easy.
it should be. Yeah, they're all getting easier as we
Yeah.
go. So I think it's just doing that. It's building our team. It's building our community. It's like you talked about, shaking the tree, and it's once we get our crew in place, like we got our team that's solid, we've got our clients that are solid, and they know what's going on in the process, and they love it as well. It's just growing the business, and we're going to do that in multiple.
Reinforcing the tree, giving it nutrients.
Exactly, yeah. So obviously there's different ways we're going about it with marketing. We're diving, of course, like we always do every year, head first into our community in a lot of different aspects. I mean, every location that we have, has their own different community kind of feels out there. So how we go about that looks a little bit different, but we still try to do our best to make sure we're all on the same page with that. So we're focusing on that. I think going into other things that we're focusing on this year, we also launched what's called direct macronutrition. So obviously we're under the umbrella of Elite Fitness Group. So Elite Fitness Group is kind of who we are as our normal business. And then obviously we have Tranzform, and then we have direct macronutrition. What's cool about that is that we've created our own type of way of approaching nutrition. And this isn't only just for how we've ran things for our nutrition programs throughout West Michigan, but it's how we've ran them through, other Fit Body Bootcamps throughout the entire country is what we've created. But we're taking it and we're bringing it to a little bit of a twist, but bringing it to scale across the entire United States, the world, whoever wants access to it. So we're putting emphasis on that because obviously our goal is to create impact in so many more different ways than just in West Michigan. So that's another branch that we're focusing on. I think one of the other long-term goals, and I don't know if this has been shared before, I don't know if Matt wants me to say it, but I'll say it anyways, is that the goal would be to create like a school for just building leaders, but building coaches. Obviously, I went to college, and there's great aspects from that, but what I learned in the first year, 2 years of just being surrounded by amazing leaders and being in the fitness industry surrounded by great coaches is that I learned way more that was actually tangible for the business and for the people that we serve than it was to go through college. Right. Obviously still benefits to go into some of the stuff I did, but that school would essentially, we basically kind of bring, instead of going to college, you'd come to us. We'd be accredited. We'd have our professors. We'd have our nutritionists, our leaders, our coaches. We'd have a curriculum that would basically grow people not only as leaders but as high level coaches. And really that would be kind of like the bigger dream of just not only impacting how we would deliver our product and service by growing leaders, but hey, if they went through it and they open their own gym or something like that, like it is what it is. We're just empowering other people just to become just greater human beings in our area.
Yeah, it sounds like you have your world is a world of abundance more than it is a scarcity. You realize that if you could build individuals, that there's so much. You're not concerned about people treading on you or anything like that. You just know who the value of what you guys do, and you're ready to say, hey, we are a mindset that we want to see bleed throughout the whole country, if not the whole world.
So for us, our mission is to transform the fitness industry through leadership. Like that is.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge.
That's our overall broad mission statement.
And you guys are doing that for sure. Yeah. You can feel that. I mean, I see your leaders out there, and I even notice like how they present themselves. What I mean by that is like how they shake your hand, how they look at you. You can see a difference in a strong leader, right? Sure. When they walk into a room, they're different because they're not. I don't know, and you can feel that about your people and your crew.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So one of the things that I believe in, and one of the things that stand out to me is that we've all heard before, and I think this is a pivotal part of your life that I hear over and over again, is you're the average of the 5 people that you're around regularly. Yeah. And you're very careful, I'm sure, about people that you're around. And I think that's one of the things that you chose is you've seen Matt when he came in and you're like, everybody else left, but you've seen something in him. Yeah. And you were like, I want to follow him. Yeah. And you went and sought after the people that you want to follow. And those are the people that you roll with now. And I think that's what also helped you. And you've also helped them develop. And every day when you show up to wherever, you realize that you're either bringing that average spiritually, financially, emotionally, or relationally. Yeah. You're bringing that average up or down with whoever you roll with. And I think that's pretty cool that you sought after Matt and you said, hey, I'm ready to be part. And he embraced that because he's seen that in you and you were ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I forgot what podcast went on, but they referred to it like it's like changing the thermostat of like who you're around. Mm-hmm. And I think Matt was one of those people that like the dude is passionate about what he's saying, and you can tell when someone's passionate about what they're saying. Like it's even like in sales. Like you can be a salesman, but like if you don't truly believe in like the product or what you're delivering, like they're gonna tell it's fake. Mm-hmm. Like it's not real. It's not genuine. It's not authentic. Mm-hmm. So, and obviously the people that he rolls with, and obviously how that's kind of rubbed off on me and a lot of the team and a lot of the investment that he's put into the team. Yeah, that's been a huge game changer. And I think we talked about this earlier too, just, suggesting to people like just slowing down and looking at the people that you do surround yourself with. And even if you don't have mentors that are close to you, maybe you don't know anyone. I mean, it's one thing to go, it's awesome to go find a men's group or find somebody to be your mentor. That's great. Luckily, I've had a lot of people that have just been thrown at me where I'm just like, I've been blessed by that, which is awesome. But I think just the amount of free education and the amount of podcasts and books that you can get access to, like those people can be your mentors. And like that's been some of my biggest mentors have been from listening to endless podcasts that are just like people have impacted you.
So if I was to tell you to pick 3, not 5, 3, I'll go with 3. Podcasts or books, what are the ones that you would that stand out, like you're quick, they stand out fast to you? This is where, as our audience is listening to what you say, where you're at, and they're like, I want to get, what are the ones that impacted you the most?
Yeah. Any John Maxwell book, like 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I think he's got probably the most written leadership books of all time. Fantastic author. Podcast wise, my biggest ones are the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast. Amazing content, amazing speakers that he brings on, as well as the Ed Milet Show, another entrepreneurial based podcast. Have been probably my biggest loop that I've played through the last 10 years.
That's pretty cool.
Big, yeah, so I'd recommend those for
sure. Those guys are amazing when it comes to their mindset. Like it's crazy, and that I do agree. I think some of the things when I went through my pivot point and I went from manufacturing into real estate, I remember listening to a podcast, not podcast, but just audiobooks like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like Robert Kiyosaki. I'm not joking. I bet you I could rehearse that book. I bet you I've listened to it, and I know it sounds crazy, 50 times in my life.
Yeah.
Seriously, that many. And you're like, that many? I go,
the best book ever.
I think he has a kid's book of
He does.
the Rich Dad Poor Dad.
He also has a
version.
board game.
Does he really?
Yeah. So I thought about buying the board game just to
I have it.
teach it. Do you?
You really?
I should
do.
borrow it.
We should play it.
Let's put it on the table right now.
Let's do it. Yeah, that would be fun. We should do that. That'd be fun.
It's so fun.
That's
Yeah. No, but that's cool.
Yeah.
So the future holds for you? Like, what do you? So the ultimate goal for you is to develop like an academy. But what about you personally?
So recently, as you guys know, I've now with City to Shore, so hopefully it's starting officially in September, which is great. I'm excited about that. I think for me, I don't want to put like a cap, like this is 100% what I'm doing. I think real estate to me has always been like, it's been exciting just to learn. I think from you, Rennie, too, just like when I first bought my first house with you guys and was able to do a little bit of flip into it and obviously build my next house and create some investment in that. Like, I think it's just it's exciting to have and just to be able to grow that, but able to share with people. I think what's really interesting, I think in right now it's tough, but for like the younger population, like getting into a home is actually scary to a lot of people.
It is.
It is. And it's like, and I can see that sometimes maybe from like the upbringing of how people experience like home ownership or whatever that is. And you don't realize that until you owned your own home and until you've built your own home or whatever it is. Like you start to realize that a little bit more. So I think real estate is always one of those things that I'm excited to dive way more into, especially on the investing side, hopefully in the years to come. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm leading. Obviously, growing Tranzform is still a huge passion because
you can tell that's what your passion is.
Yeah, it's great. Like the team dynamic is great. Like when you work with a really solid team, it's hard to want to leave like people who are also like super fired up and super like they're just rowing in the right direction. So it's nice to be a part of that. But so that's kind of the initial. You're giving me the 5-year plan. It's just growing Tranzform, growing some real estate.
Any more kids?
Kayla will say she wants 2 to 3 more. I'm good with I'm good with 1 more. Emery's a very easy baby, but
Oh, that's fun. That's
for
fun.
sure.
A little advice from me is I stopped at their 3, and if it were me personally, I would have had more. Isn't that great?
Well, I appreciate the advice
because once they get older, if you raise them well, once they get older, it's just fun. Like I see even Shelly, her daughters are out at her boat, like, hanging out.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So I'm gonna be honest with you. Is it a challenge? Yeah, in the beginning, for sure, you're gonna have your set of challenges. But just like anything, business or with kids, the reward is always there if you put in the work.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kayla's one of 7, so she knows all about that.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Brandon, where can people find you
Yeah.
if somebody's watching this podcast today
For
or
sure.
listening to it and they're like, I need to talk to that guy?
Yeah. So you can find us on transformfitness.com. So we've got 5 locations in the area. So we've got Grand Haven, we've got Forest Hills, we have Granville, we have our Knapp's Corner, and then Byron Center will be done in August.
Nice.
So if you're near any of those locations, stop in, come see the place, come see the gym. Any of our coaches are more than happy to show you through it and walk you through the place.
Yep.
Our hours are typically, we start as early as 5 a.m. I know some people hear that and they're like, no way.
That's me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm honestly the same way. I like working out later in the afternoon, but we go from 5 a.m. to around 10:30 a.m. and then we start again around 4 o'clock and end around 7. So we've got some hours for just about everybody to kind of fit in their workouts, kind of Monday through Saturday there. But we were trying to think about, like, going on to this podcast, what can we offer to people that are listening? And I know we talked about the functional movement screen earlier, but so if you look us up and you contact any of those locations, and you mentioned that you heard us on the Shoreline podcast or Shoreline show, that we'll give you a 7-day what we call like a VIP pass. So this is the first time we're actually implementing this all together. So you guys are the first people to hear about this, but basically you'd get 7 days just to experience pretty much everything that we have to offer. You'd get the large group training aspect side of things, which is coached by all of our professional coaches at each location, but you'd also get what is called a starting point session. So we take you through a functional movement screen, which is super important because, like, you need to know yourself in order to progress yourself. So it's a really cool tool that will guide you through to make sure that you're progressively your movement patterns are there, and if they're not, that's okay. Like, everybody has something, and that's okay, and we'll set up a plan of how to improve that. That'll ultimately take your workout experience to the next level. On top of that, we talk about mindset, we talk about your schedule, we talk about any hurdles that you're going through. We'll dive into nutrition. We also have what's called an in-body scan. People don't like jumping on the in-body scan because it tells you all these numbers that sometimes you don't want to know, but you got to know
body fat percentage.
Body fat percentage. Yeah, but it's cool because it shows the muscle in your left arm, your right arm, your upper body. So it's a really fancy, expensive tool that not a lot of people get access to use that helps you grow and progress towards your fitness and health journey. So mention that. Find us on Facebook and Instagram at Tranzform Fitness or Tranzform Custom Fitness Solution. You can see a lot of videos. We've been releasing a ton of client testimonials. There was one that was out the other day that was really impactful about this lady's journey that, I would go to Instagram, follow us, check those out. There's really amazing testimonial stories.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just to remind you guys, though, definitely take advantage of that and go there and get this free training for 7 days, this VIP pass. That's the value that we're bringing here today, and
Awesome.
That's amazing that you're offering that to our
Thank you guys for letting us
That's awesome.
speak on it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, if you're joining us today, watching this podcast, make sure on YouTube that you like and subscribe and share. And you can also find us on all of the other audio podcast platforms. So listen to us when you're working out at the gym, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So awesome. We do have one more thing for you to do.
Yes, the message in a bottle.
Yeah, there's a message in the bottle. So if you could grab that.
Get this thing out of here. Oh, that was smooth. See?
Smooth
Smooth
sailing.
sailing. That was good. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Okay. So during the pivotal first year of your business, what strategies or practices did you employ to maintain a positive mindset and prevent doubts, fears, what ifs from affecting your progress? So obviously I came on as an intern in the first few years of the business, but I'd say, so I don't know, it was a little bit different for me, but I would say the biggest thing is just surrounding yourself with really positive people. I was blessed to just fall into this, and obviously from just knowing who Matt was, I knew that's kind of what I was going to get into when I joined this company. But you know, the mentors that I had and some of the veteran coaches there were super positive, super uplifting. We had some other coaches that kind of brought me up in my own growth in that. But not only that, but we were listening to books and reading a lot of podcasts and holding each other accountable in that. So I think it's just making sure that when you're in your first few years that you're either surrounding yourself with a bunch of people that are going to help lift you up, because there's going to be tough times. Yeah, I think that's just the biggest thing that I think helped me progress and stay focused on what we were doing with growth of our company.
I think it's cool how Matt, like him as an individual, can impact so many people's lives because he made a decision to show up.
Yeah.
And to pour into to his people and be there. And he's done that for you. And you're doing that now for, I mean, I hear your name all over, so I can't imagine. Right. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Well, the next part of this is you need to leave a message. So if you could tear a piece of paper out of there.